everybody. Welcome back to another episode of This is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry. I am sitting down here at Bourbon on the Banks, which is one of the coolest new things coming to Central Kentucky in bourbon. Swan is also sitting here.
I made it.
Swan
Hello.
did make it. I'm proud of you for making it, you know?
Well, it's in my backyard, so I kind of had to. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm glad to be down here. It looks really cool. They got a ton of vendors set up, and we're meeting some definitely very interesting people.
Yeah, just a quick kind of rundown of some of the folks that are here. Jim Beam, Buffalo Trace, Jephthah Creed. You're getting a little peek behind the curtain, but we just sat down with Joyce and Autumn from Jephthah Creed and talked about their Bloody Butcher bourbon.
Yeah.
Which, spoilers, I liked a lot.
Me too.
I liked it quite a bit. So that interview is going to be coming up here in a little bit. There's so many awesome vendors here. It's not just about the bourbon. It's also about food. There's some wine vendors here as well.
Some wine, yeah.
Some beer. Got folks walking by wondering what it is that we're actually doing over here.
We're just holding mics to our face. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
We're just talking to each other about, whatever. But so this intro is happening at the beginning of day one. I think that the outro should happen at the end of day two.
I'm all for that.
Cool. All right. Well, as we're kind of waiting for somebody else to come over, why don't we do a little flying blind?
Let's go for it.
What you got in your cup there, Swan?
Got some new riff.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, we got a little new riff action happening over here. It's less flying blind and us just kind of getting warmed up for the rest of the night. You know.
There's so many different vendors here, and it is just all over the palette. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one booth to the next, you've got super corn heavy and forward, and 6-month-old product that they're really proud of, and some of them are really good for 6 months.
Oh, heck yeah.
Then you go to the next booth, and they've got some 2012 Bookers just hanging out at the booth.
Yeah. Shout out to Jim Beam, by the way, for just randomly throwing Jeff a bottle of a 2012 Bookers.
That's amazing. As soon as we saw him pull out the pine box, we both were like, oh, my gosh, what is he doing? What is he doing? We got to go over there.
I thought I was going blind for a second.
I'm already
I thought
blind.
I was flying blind.
Yeah. I was just excited.
So, yeah, I mean, we're just kind of hanging out right now as things get ramped up here on night one. Swan, I got to ask you, what have you been drinking recently?
Coming off our 1792 episode, I've been having some of the High Rye.
It's funny you say that because I've been drinking more of that Bottled & Bond Barton.
Really?
It's good, man.
Cool. Yeah.
It's good stuff. I hate that the Bottled & Bond's going away in favor of a 100 proof, non-age stated product.
Yeah.
But I mean, let me tell you, I wish that I had kind of invested a little bit more time in that and gotten to try some more of that when it was readily available. So we have our first guest of the evening. He is from Bluegrass Distillers, and his name is
Justin Holcomb.
Welcome onto the show, Justin. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good, absolutely. So this product that we're trying is your all's newest addition to the lineup.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
So this bourbon is the mash bill on it is 75% corn and 21% wheat, 4% malted barley. But what's unique about it, what's interesting about it is that we actually partnered with Pivot Brewing. It's a local brewery from Lexington, Kentucky.
I like Pivot quite a bit.
Yeah, well, they make a hard cider, and we sent our barrels to them, and they put their cider in it for a bourbon finished cider.
That's so
cool.
interesting.
And then they sent it back to us, and we put our aged bourbon in it for a couple months, and now we have a cider finished bourbon. So we tried pulling some of those cider notes out of the barrel that they left in there.
It's a bourbon finished cider finished bourbon.
Yeah.
That's a bit much for the label, but I like that.
No, I do too. I think it's unique. I mean, who else is putting out a product like this?
Yeah.
You can definitely pick up some of the apple notes.
Yeah.
The cider notes that are on the nose for sure.
So the front half, you're gonna get that bite on the tongue. You'll get a little bit of that Kentucky hug you're looking for in the front half. But the back half of this, you'll really start to pull some of the cider sweetness from it. It's not overwhelming cider throughout, but you definitely get some towards the back half. And the aftertaste is great. I love the aftertaste.
That is so easily drinkable.
It is. That's dangerous. I could get in trouble with that one.
I could really get in trouble with that. What's the proof on it?
So this one's sitting at 90 proof.
Dude,
So
I could, that would be it for me. I mean, Wednesday night Perry pours, I'd be like,
Perry pours.
oh, dude, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, man, I have a heavy hand when I pour, unfortunately.
Oh, he does. He's not kidding on that one.
Swan can attest. He's left many recording sessions after I've poured.
I need an Uber.
Feeling
Help me.
good. Feeling good. An
Yeah.
Uber all the way to Frankfurt. I wonder what that costs.
Way too much. Way too much. No, this is good. I don't know if anybody else has done this that I've tried, and it's phenomenal. I love
I
pulling
don't
those
think
apple notes
anybody's used a cider barrel.
I don't know if
A
anybody
lot of people will
has
send their stuff to other breweries and stuff, but they never bring them back. They never get them back from the brewery. You'll have people doing the cherry cask from wines and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know of anybody else doing a cider finished. So it's really unique.
That's always been something that I've really liked about Bluegrass Distillers. We've had Maggie on before, who is your cohort here tonight. And it has always been fascinating to me seeing the innovation that you guys have been able to kind of explore and doing all these different little things with your products.
Yeah, we're trying stuff all the time, man.
I think it's great. Yeah, I think that you guys are in a really cool position to be able to do that.
You know, something we're working on right now is actually a pickleback bourbon. A pickleback bourbon.
What's a pickleback?
So
bourbon?
yeah,
One more time?
It's not a. Look, it's not being produced by Nickelback, is it?
No. So you've heard of
Pickled rye.
Have you heard of a pickleback shot?
I've not.
Yeah,
No.
I've heard of
So
it.
they're pretty popular in Kentucky, man. So a pickleback shot, you take a shot of whiskey or bourbon and chase it with a shot of pickle juice.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not a huge pickle fan, but what we're doing here is we have a barrel soaking in pickle juice right now, and we're emptying it next month. And then we're going to finish it. We're going to put aged bourbon into that barrel and finish it. What that pickle does is cools it down, and it makes it really smooth.
Really?
So, yeah, so we have a tester bottle we tried, and it's really not overwhelming pickle flavor, because
Yeah.
I hate pickles. But I like it. You know?
I am so interested to try this.
Yeah, and there's no pickle bourbon or pickle whiskey. I know Great Smoky does like a pickle moonshine.
Yeah.
But they're the only ones with the pickle, and I think novelty-wise, it's going to do great.
Yeah, no, I've seen somebody do like the Tabasco finished Dickel, but that's about the strangest thing I've seen. I think this one's going to probably take the cake for me. Yeah.
I think it's going to be good, man. I think people's going to really like it, for sure.
I'm here for it, dude.
Yeah.
I think that sounds. Look, I will not knock anything until I try it once.
Yeah, no, I'm
And
definitely
in
going
this
to try
case,
it.
I'm definitely going to try it once. Or more than once. Who's to say?
I think you'll like it, man. I think you're going to like it. You're going to try it at least 3 or 4 times.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
I like that.
That sounded like a challenge. Well, Justin, thank you so much for sitting down, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
Appreciate
dude.
it.
I appreciate it.
We've of course had Bluegrass on before, but they are located right in Lexington. So if you are in town and you want to check out a very, very cool craft distillery, be sure to do that. So
For sure, man.
cheers, man. So we are very fortunate to have some good old friends of the show back on here at Bourbon on the Banks. Autumn and Joyce from Jeff the Creed.
Hi,
Autumn,
it's good to
welcome
see you
back.
again.
Good to
Yeah,
see you too,
thanks for
Joyce.
having me back.
Joyce, welcome on to the show.
Thank
for the
you for
first time.
having us. This is
Absolutely.
awesome.
So since the last time I saw you, Autumn, you guys came out with your very first bourbon.
I know.
I-
It's really exciting.
I have not even tried it yet.
Oh, well, we're going to remedy
We're
that.
going to fix that right now.
I am very excited about this. It's the Bloody Butcher Corn, right? So
Our 4-grain straight bourbon.
okay, so I'm going to let you guys talk a little bit about what this product is and how you kind of came to build this profile and everything.
Okay, well, one of the things that we think is super awesome special about our bourbon is the corn that we use. Our corn we grow ourselves. It's an heirloom corn. It's non-GMO, open pollinated, and it's been
Yay.
documented in use since at least 1845. So it's very, very
Wow,
old-fashioned.
wow.
It has a really cool name too. It's called Bloody Butcher.
I love that name.
That's great.
I think it's awesome.
Now, I want to tell you a little bit about why it's called Bloody Butcher.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this corn, in that corn on the cob eating stage, is actually white. It turns red as it dries on the stalk. And we don't
Okay.
harvest till it's, the whole entire stalk, everything is completely dry.
Okay.
But in between the white of corn on the cob and the red of fully dry, it's white with red splotches.
Interesting.
Yeah. And at that point, it looks like a butcher's apron that's gotten bloodied.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how we think it's got its name, Bloody Butcher.
Learning something new
Had no
every
idea.
day.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
That
It's
is
so
so
cool.
awesome.
It tastes great. It tastes great at every stage.
98 proof. That seems high for the first go at a bourbon.
It is.
Right,
It
yeah.
is. It is a little bit on the higher side.
Sure.
But we think you get more value for your money that way, and that
Absolutely.
at this particular proof, it tastes fantastic.
Aged at least
Yeah,
2
we,
years.
we
so.
tested all sorts of proofs, all the way down to 80 and as far up as, 110?
Yes.
And 98 is where we settled on it tasting
Absolutely.
the best.
Good settle. So, should we try something with this?
Absolutely, we can
Okay,
do that.
I'm gonna let you pour because I tend to go a little bit heavy-handed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hence the Perry
You don't
pour.
say.
Well, you
Look.
guys can talk about the bottle while I
Oh,
pour.
the bottle is gorgeous.
Absolutely.
I love
amazing.
bottles that have some kind of etching or embossing. That was a nice little pop of the cork, by the way.
No, we should have had that.
No,
No.
it showed up a little bit.
Okay, well, there we go.
I'll edit it in post so you can hear it more. But I love bottles that have this really intricate design on them that's not just limited to like the label. It's the
Right.
graphic design nerd that's coming out in me and everything. But I think the labeling is beautiful. Super, super great branding.
Well, from the get-go, we wanted that bottle to be something unique, something that you don't see on the shelf every day.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, we'd always imagined that we'd model it after the Tree of Life, which is really an
Oh.
important symbol to my family.
Look at that.
So it's kind of took a more avant-garde take on it
Sure.
almost, but that's why we wanted it to be raised. We wanted it to have texture, and I really wanted the branches to reach up over the bottle and wrap around the entire bottle.
I think it's just beautiful.
It
And
really stands on
y'all-
the shelf, too.
Y'all did a really
Yeah,
good job with
it's-
this. So what's the fourth grain? Is it wheat?
Okay, what we've got going on here, I talked about the Bloody Butcher corn.
Yes.
So this is 70% Bloody Butcher corn.
Okay.
Then we've got malted rye, malted wheat, and malted barley.
What?
So
All right.
all the grains except for the corn are all malted.
That is crazy.
It's beautiful.
That is so cool. Okay, well, this is something that I'm going to be very honest with you. I have not had a whole lot of like super malted products before, so this is going to be really cool for me getting to try something like this for the first time
Yeah.
and finding out what it's like.
Oh, here we go.
It smells fantastic. Let me see. I love that. I love that nose.
I get a lot of florals on the nose.
Yeah, some fruits too.
Yeah.
The color is gorgeous. The color is gorgeous. We got a lot of body going on with this too.
That's really savory. That's
really-
amazing.
Really good. Look, there are not a whole lot of 2-year-old products out there that have the robustness that this does. This, if you had blinded me with this, I would have said it tasted much older
Yes.
than 2 years old. I don't know if you guys are using smaller barrels or if you're still using, so you're just using 53 gallon.
This is actually 53 with a few 10s blended
Interesting.
in.
But just a
Mostly,
handful of
yeah,
tens.
mostly it's all 53.
You guys have done something really good with this bottle. I think this is just a fabulous product.
I think our Bloody Butcher corn does beautiful, beautiful things for us. You know, that whole heirloom piece of the corn. And the corn is red when it's fully dry. But that red, you know, the chemical components that make it red, the color doesn't come through in the distillate, but those flavor components do. And I think it just gives us a little bit of extra flavor and some extra beautifulness in our bourbon.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that malting process adds a ton to it. Because I don't think I've had a 4-grain with anything other than malted barley. I've had that before, but the malted rye, that's different for sure.
Well, the only malted rye that I can think of is
New
New
Riff's.
Riff's.
Yeah, New Riff's
because
doing
their rye is 95% rye and then 5% malted rye. As far as a bourbon goes with a malted rye,
And a 4 grain. And a 4 grain, too.
Blowing his mind.
I am all about this. I think that this is a very, very good product. Where do you see your bourbon growing in the near future, too?
Oh, I see it growing really far. Right now, we've got. Right now, we're distributed in Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee. Tennessee being our newest state of distribution, so we're still getting more placements out there, but we've got quite a few. We've got them listed on our website as well.
Awesome. Cool. Do y'all have a rye in development?
We do. We should have a rye mash bill bourbon out in 2021. So we're still letting it age a little bit. We want
Good.
it to be at least 4 years old and possibly bottled in bond.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We also have a high wheat bourbon.
High wheat.
High wheat.
Okay.
So it is aging alongside that bourbon.
Yes.
So
That rye.
And that one, the wheat mash bill probably won't come out for another 4 years at least.
sure.
It'll
So
be a little while.
high wheat is an interesting thing to me because I've always understood wheated bourbons as what you were tasting, because they're sweeter, you're tasting the absence of rye. You're not necessarily tasting the addition of wheat to it. So why high wheat?
Well, it's actually high malted wheat.
There you go. Okay, all right. There you go. Case closed.
And it's because we did an experiment back in 2014 when we were figuring out exactly what our mash bills needed to be, and I loved the wheat. And it was actually the malted wheat. I thought it was fabulous. It was so smooth and had this beautiful sweetness and nuttiness, and I'm like, it's gorgeous. This is it. And then we decided to do the high malted rye also.
Well, that was because my dad loved the rye.
Yeah. So we thought at that point that we were going to have one bourbon, and then we did this experiment, and I loved the high malted wheat. He loved the high malted rye. So we had this little battle going on in the family, and then decided to end our experiment with us ultimately having at least those 3 bourbons, the 4 grain that we have out right now, and then the wheat and the rye bourbons that we're still aging.
I think that not only is this a good sign of things to come, this is a good sign of what you guys are doing with the distillery right now. Honestly, I had no expectations going into it, so everything about it, I just honestly have been blown away by. The palate, the finish, the nose on it, I think that everything has just been exceptional.
It's fantastic.
And well done.
Thank you. We're so proud. So proud.
Yeah. So also what I'm hearing, we have not yet done a full episode
No, we have not.
just on Jeff the Creed.
No.
So I am hearing that we need to do a family episode
Absolutely.
because I'm all about family, and I think that that would be something really, really fun to do. So, teaser for in the future, not too far away future, I hope. We'll do a little family Jeff the Creed.
That'll be
story.
fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Joyce and Autumn, thank you all so much for sitting down for a
Well,
couple
thank you
minutes.
so
problem.
much for trying it with us.
Oh my
We
gosh,
are
I'm-
so proud and so happy to share it.
I'm such a fan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, y'all.
Y'all take
Cheers.
care.
So I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves before we get too far into it, though.
I'm Brandon True with Goodwood Brewing Company. Just loving being here in Frankfort, Kentucky, in the home of the bourbon country.
Yes, sir.
And looking forward for seeing great growth for the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And share it for everybody else.
Totally agree. This is Fish Scales, 1/4 of Nappy Roots. I'm grateful to be here. Grateful to be in Frankfort, Kentucky, man. Nappy Roots is here. Oh,
I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm kind of freaking out a little bit.
I didn't
'cause
mean
this is
I didn't
really
mean
cool.
to throw it your way. I didn't mean to, but you know.
it's all good.
No, you're good.
I'm enjoying this. Let's talk too, because I'm a huge fan of Goodwood. I think Goodwood is doing really, really good things right now. I think your
Thank you.
hemp beer
Hemp Goza. Mm-hmm.
is so tasty, man. You guys are really expanding here in Kentucky as well. You've got a place in Louisville now, right?
That's where we're based out of.
Yeah, you got a place coming out here in Frankfort as well.
It's open, full restaurant right there on the river.
Great, man.
Brewing beer in
great.
house there.
Yeah. So what's next?
We'll have
for-
live music there. Live music
Oh.
there. Yep. Yep.
Let me know when that
can
happens.
we tell them? Can we
Did
tell
we tell
them?
them yet? I don't know. We might.
We're not gonna tell y'all, but Fish Scales might be the new talent coordinator for Goodwood. We'll see. We'll see, man.
See what happens. The day is young.
It's a Jay-Z NFL type situation where we're trying to bring black people into craft beer.
Good.
Yeah.
And Goodwood is really taking a step forward to make that happen.
So one of the cool things that I love about bourbon, and it kind of has crossed over into beer as well, is that it's not just one group of people that are drinking it anymore. It's like everybody. You know,
may I interrupt here?
Sure.
I apologize. And so let me just say this festival, Bourbon on the Banks, and I don't know if it's out there enough, but it needs to be shared more, is that really K-State, Kentucky State University, it's about the African-American heritage in the bourbon industry in Kentucky and spreading it from way beyond that. People have not realized that African-American heritage has been such a big, huge part in the past. And so this is a stepping stone to help spread that message. And, you know, we're just happy to be here and very happy to reap the benefits of what the people and our families have been in the past. Stepping stone to make everything better for the world and start here and do the best we can.
Well, I'm definitely always about helping minorities get to a level playing field. But I think with this festival right here, Bourbon on the Banks, I think it's basically really showing the fact that bourbon is a Kentucky crop. That is a Kentucky product.
Same thing with our hemp.
Absolutely.
Which y'all may know, but the rest of the world don't really know. Bourbon is a Kentucky product. If you want the best bourbon and you live in Belgium, if you come to the United States, you'll say, all right, I came to New York to see Times Square, but I also want to see the bourbon capital. What's the bourbon capital?
Kentucky.
You'll travel from anywhere in the world to come to Kentucky, and it just so happened it's Bardstown, it's Frankfurt. So
where's Nappy Roots from?
Hold on. Well, Nappy Roots from Kentucky, and that's a big part of Nappy Roots. A big part of Nappy Roots is bourbon, and a big part of Kentucky is bourbon. And I think this festival is just adding to showing that. And me being from Georgia, we don't give a damn about bourbon. Like, we just don't. But if anybody from Georgia wants to know about bourbon, like I've learned to, my friends from Kentucky taught me about bourbon. And that's something I think Kentucky people should take pride in.
I totally agree with that. But, like, what brought you here? What other than bourbon, what brought you to Kentucky?
Well, I came to Kentucky to play basketball.
Yeah?
And that's when I learned that you can't have bourbon without Kentucky. Shout out to West Kentucky. I came here in 1995 to play basketball for the Hilltoppers. And we started Nappy Roots in 1998. I say 19, like that's a whole nother century.
It's so long ago, man.
I was
born in
was
the
like,
90s.
was I like 2? No,
that was a century
I was like
ago.
14, 15 years old.
That was a century ago. But the fact still remains that this is the home of bourbon. And I'm in the craft beer industry as Atlantucky. That's our new company as Nappy Roots. And everybody is doing bourbon barreled aged.
Yeah, they are.
And we go to breweries from Florida to Hood River, Oregon. And we be like, where'd you get those barrels from?
Kentucky.
So every state got to have something that you claim. And that's just one thing, but it's a big thing. Kentucky owns bourbon.
How'd you get involved with Goodwood, though?
I just met Brandon.
Whitney Wharton Worldwide.
Shout out to Whitney Wharton Worldwide. How did I get in touch with Goodwood?
Our good friends at Sig Lusher as well.
Short story. Nappy Roots. If y'all know about Nappy Roots, you know our first album was Watermelon Chicken and Grits. Our first beer that was distributed was Watermelon Chicken and Grits. And that was just recently, and it done real well. And it was with Against the Grain. But we went to Goodwood first. We walked into Goodwood and said we would love to do a beer with y'all. And it's like, you
For
know
one
what?
rea- for one reason or another, it
Goodwood,
didn't
for
work.
whatever reason, this is my guy Brandon. He's with me. I love Goodwood now, but Goodwood basically said, you know what? You probably should holler at Against the Grain.
We weren't ready yet.
Weren't ready yet. And Against the Grain opened the doors and said, let's do the beer right now. But it's a full circle. We with Goodwood hanging out. This guy's one of my best friends.
True story. Be true, Scales. Good to see you, bro.
You too, bro.
Appreciate you being here, man.
I think this is just one of the coolest things that could have happened, just out of the blue, too. But thank you all so much for sitting down for a couple minutes and talking about what's coming out with Goodwood and Nappy Roots. I mean, hang on, man. This is cool. This is really cool to see.
Let me say this. I would be totally remiss if I didn't say we got a beer coming out with Sig Lushers
Yes.
from Frankfurt, September 27th. We're doing a tour. We're touring 8 major breweries, 8 breweries around this area from 4 o'clock to 12 o'clock, September 27th. And we're going to put out a schedule on nappyroots.com and let you know where we'll be each hour so you can hang out with us on September 27th. Just the pre-show, September 28th,
There you go.
when we're doing the festival with Sig Lushers. And Nappy Roots, never done a show in Frankfort, Kentucky, ever. I mean, ever in life. So this is going to be different. It's going to be fun.
It's gonna be awesome. Thank
Excited
y'all
for
for
it.
having us. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you all
Absolutely,
so
man.
much for sitting down. This was really,
Thank
really
y'all.
cool. So we've got Marjorie now from the James E. Pepper Distillery.
Hi.
Hi, Marjorie. Welcome onto the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy for you bringing these products for us to try.
I just swooped in on you with my bag full of goodies.
You really did, which was totally fine because we're here for it.
Oh, absolutely.
So you've got your new 115 proof. Bourbon.
What I have here for you to try is our barrel proof rye, our
Yes.
1776 barrel proof rye. And I also brought a little special something from the distillery, our Old Pepper 10-year-old bourbon. That is only available at the distillery. This barrel specifically, we just cracked this open pretty recently, so I don't think you've tried this one.
Oh, I definitely have not.
It is 115.7 proof.
Let's do it.
Let's try it.
Do you want to start with the bourbon or do you want to start with the rye?
Let's start with the bourbon first.
Let's go for it.
So this is a high rye mash bill. It's our 59% corn, 36% rye, 5% malted barley.
That is a high rye mash bill.
It is.
Oh my goodness.
It's the same mash bill as our 1776 bourbon, which distributes all over. But this is a little older. It's our 10-year.
Oh, that nose.
Yeah, it smells amazing.
I'd like to describe their faces. They're blown away. They're walking away. They've given up the podcast.
Throwing down the mic. We're out of here.
Marjorie's your new host. Congratulations, Marjorie.
I've taken over the podcast.
You've completely taken over. This is my
It's
bourbon
now the
podcast.
James E. Pepper 179.
No, this is so good. It's like
It's very rich.
brown sugar baked banana.
Yeah, no. Let me get back in.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna see
like
if I get that.
it's so layered in savoriness and sweetness that I mean this is like a dessert bourbon to the max.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys didn't proof this down. This is amazing
This
right where
is
it's at.
perfect where it is.
We do all our Old Pepper 10-year-old bourbon, single barrel and barrel proof. So we have a flight in the distillery that you can come and taste 3 different single barrels right next to each other, which
I've
is
actually
really,
done that before.
yeah,
it
it's a
good?
blast.
It's really, really good.
It's really fun because, and you guys, you guys have done maybe some barrel selections or and
Yes.
stuff like that. So you've done the inside scoop thing, but your average everyday bourbon drinker doesn't get the opportunity to try multiple single
yeah.
barrels of the same product
Oh, yeah.
right next to each other. It's hard to find that. A lot of you find a great single barrel in a liquor store or at a bar, but you can't try other single barrels of that same product. So it's a way for the everyday bourbon drinker to try a few different of the single barrels and take one home that they like.
What I love about James Pepper too is that you guys are kind of, it's same thing I was saying about Bluegrass. You guys are kind of the sleepers in the Kentucky, the Lexington bourbon distiller scene. You know, unless you really knew where to go to try James Pepper, it would totally be lost on you. But, you know, because I love Goodfellas so much, because I love the distillery district so much, I was like, oh, James Pepper. A, I love bourbon. B, you know, I love trying new bourbon. I'm definitely going to go and check them out. So I think that people definitely need to make what I would call the sojourn to
Yeah, I mean, you
to
go
come
over
and check you
there
guys
and
out.
you've got ice cream and pizza right next to
You
it.
can
Perfect.
spend the whole day over there now. You can go axe throwing. You can check out our friends over at like the cidery. There's a couple breweries down there
true.
now. We've got ice cream. Yeah, you just bring the whole family, spend the whole day.
Yeah, for sure.
The fun thing, and I grew up in Lexington, and I had no
Where'd you
idea.
go to high school?
I graduated Bryan Station,
Dang it, I was Henry
class
Clay.
of 2011. Go Station,
Oh, okay.
go
I was,
Defenders.
I was 2011 Henry Clay.
Nice.
So
I bet we know a lot of the same people.
we definitely do. We'll talk about that off air.
I bet I've heard stories. So we we grew up in Lexington. You know, you did not go over to that area that is now the
No.
distillery district. There was nothing over there unless you
No.
were getting into trouble.
Nope.
And now we've got this awesome, booming, really cool place. But what I find, and I'm in it all the time, but I find folks who live in Lexington still don't know. Like, they may go to Ethereal, they may go to Goodfellas, they still don't know that the building that those awesome local businesses are in was the James Pepper Distillery. That was built in 1879, and it was the largest, most technologically advanced distillery in the country for a while when it was first built. That it was this huge, like, really well-known brand for many years, and then it just was abandoned and became that kind of dilapidated building we remember it as. But it's pretty cool. So we've been open to the public about a year.
Shall we try the rye next, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to try the rye.
So our barrel proof rye, it sounds like you guys have had the 1776 100 proof bourbon and 100 proof rye on your show.
Yes, we have.
So those are our flagship products. And those, you say we're the sleepers of the Lexington community. And that is, I would say, pretty true. In Lexington, you don't see us around that much, but we have a huge following. We started, the way we got up and running was by distributing out into these huge markets, and we have a massive following in California, New York, and all over. We distribute all over, but I'm always pushing to my friends, like, guys, check out our stuff, because you don't see it as much in Lexington. But that 1776 100 proof bourbon and rye is a massive distribution. We send that all over the country. It's in all the best cocktail bars all over the country. Now, this stuff, though, is our barrel proof rye, and this stuff is like
All right.
bomb. This is what I'm mostly
Let's
drinking.
go for it.
Yeah.
You sold me.
It is the same mash bill as our 100 proof rye, but it is straight out of the barrel. So it's uncut, unfiltered.
So Marjorie's cohort has just walked up, and you are definitely going to sit down with
We don't
us
let her talk
as
to
well.
people. This is Tyler. She does our TTB and
All
compliance.
right, Tyler, you've been roped into
We
sitting
don't
down
like
with
to
the
let her
podcast.
out of the office. She stays. In the office and she punches all the numbers into spreadsheets. She makes sure we don't get into trouble. I'm the one that's always out getting us into trouble.
How are we doing, guys?
Doing well,
This
Tyler.
is Tyler.
How are you?
We
Nice
let
to
her
meet
out to
you.
play today.
Doesn't happen often.
Well,
She
Welcome to the
she sees the
podcast.
sun. Normally she keeps us in line, but
the vampire of James E. Pepper
if you can't
Distillery.
tell by the color of my skin. So what do
Yeah.
we have here, guys?
So this is the barrel proof rye that Marjorie has poured for us, and let me say,
It smells amazing.
it tastes even better.
Oh, I'm not at it yet. I'm behind.
Well, come on, Swan. Get there.
Marjorie gave me the good stuff. So
Dang.
Both of these are good stuff. Yeah. Cheers.
cheers.
What is the mash bill on the rye?
95% rye, 5% malted barley. No corn in that.
That's why I love it
Wow.
so much.
It's so good.
95% ryes are typically my favorite ryes. Marjorie and Tyler, thank you all so much
Thanks for
being
having
here
us,
to talk
guys.
about James E. Pepper. This has been a lot of fun.
Come see us.
Yeah, for sure. Go check them out. So Nate Woodruff, or Whiskey with a View, on social media, and Haley from Wilderness Trail
Here we
are
are.
sitting down with us. And super, super happy to have you guys here. It's kind of a, I wouldn't say clashing of worlds, but we're just kind of bringing everything together.
A smorgasbord of spirits.
Sure, the end
look
of,
at that.
I like that a lot. It's the end of night one at Bourbon on the Banks. I think it's been a success so
End?
far.
So far.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
End of
okay.
night one?
End in terms of,
The allotted time.
Yes.
yeah, that's true. I mean, we are
But-
already almost, we're
Past it.
almost 30 minutes over.
We are. Well, then we're doing great. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's
There's no
typical
wonder that they
bourbon
gave
time.
us. There's no wonder they gave us 2 hours to pack up.
I don't see any cherries and berries flashing just yet, so I think we're good. I'm sorry, we don't know that term.
No, we don't.
I think you
don't-
made us all blush with that.
We don't have a whole lot of naughty talk on this in my bourbon podcast, but you
How
know
you have
what?
the
cherries and
explicit-
berries naughty? It's
We'll allow
red and
it.
blue
No,
lights.
it's
I
fine.
mean, do I have to explain myself?
But if you do not follow Whiskey with a View on all social media channels, you definitely should, because not only are you seeing really good whiskey in beautiful scenes, you know, you get to check out Nate too. But Haley works for Wilderness Trail,
I do.
and you
Fact.
guys had a fantastic new bourbon come out recently.
Yes.
Which I was saying before we hit record, I gave like an 18 out of 20.
Yeah, it's up there for sure.
I was very, very high praise with this bourbon. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we can go back to talking about how handsome Nate is.
All of us cherries and berries.
I have now created a monster.
Yep. I'm gonna hashtag cherries and berries all the time and see what happens.
Is that the
Probably
new
trouble.
bourbon whiskey you guys are coming out with? Cherries and berries single barrel?
Cherries and berries single barrel.
I want 4.
You can go do a pick and name it that for sure.
Oh, that is happening. I cannot deny it. Anyway,
This is our a 4-year-old bottle and bond rye bourbon. It's a small batch, but yeah, we just came out with it in May of this
Yeah.
year, so only a couple months old, out on the market. But yeah, it is my new favorite thing, of course, because it's a rye though. I used to be a weeded girl, and I think I've been converted.
I got to be honest with
Officially.
you. This was a game changer for me with your all's products.
It's so good.
If this had come out last year, it easily would have been my best bourbon
Yeah.
of 2018. And
But
it's
what about 2019?
well, it's creeping its way up.
It's up there, yeah.
I will be very, very honest with you. I think that it's getting there. Oh my gosh.
More bourbon just hit
I'm
the
making
table.
myself look better. Last time I was in Kentucky doing work with a big series, I was given, I think I had about 7 or 8 bottles and a bunch of other whiskey paraphernalia, for a better word. And I could only pack
Sounds illegal.
2. No, it was whiskey paraphernalia. I could only pack like 2 or 3 bottles, and my roommate, the maids at the hotel definitely got a very good tip that day, which was just several bottles of booze and a shaker and cups. But
Good for
I will
them.
tell you that Wilderness Trail was the one of 2 bottles that made it in my backpack, and it's now maybe there's a quarter left.
Running low.
It's so
Gotta stock
good. It was
up.
that one too. It was the bottle and bond. It was so good.
It's good stuff. There's not many times I go to a distillery and wait for something to come out. And like the day that it came out, I was like 3rd or 4th, like
I
ready to
remember.
go in.
Yeah.
I was so ready. And then they were like, "We're doing this huge thing." I was like, "I'm ready to go home and try this." So
Just, you're like, thanks, but I gotta run.
Yeah, I
got-
think
I need
that's
some
what
alone
happened. Is
time
he,
with this bottle. I'm out.
I think that's what
Yeah.
happened too. Is he came back and we recorded a podcast like immediately too.
Good. I'm sure it was one of your best.
it
Right?
was. It was.
No, it is.
It was
It's-
without fault, except for 2 points worth.
No,
I don't know what
fault.
those 2 points were. So
What
what
do
did
we
you
have?
just pour for us, Nate?
All right, so this is our flagship Whistle Pig. Personally, my favorite. I adore this. It's a 10-year Alberta rye. It's going to be sweeter than you would expect from 100% rye. Definitely.
Oh, I never would have known that it was 100% rye.
Yeah.
Never would have known.
So for this particular expression, like I said, it's our flagship. It's my personal favorite. It's 100 proof. Does not go down like 100 proof. Before Dave Pickerel sadly passed, this was basically his favorite. Anytime we were hanging out up at the farm, he would end the night with a glass of this with one big rock and a cigar. Reason being at 100 proof, it's extremely versatile. So you can drink it neat, you can drink it on the rocks, make some amazing cocktails. Tomorrow I'll be whipping up some old fashions with this all day.
Wow.
They're going to be delicious. But the nice thing about our 10-year is the fact that it's very difficult nowadays to find a 10-year rye or bourbon whiskey now that's not allocated and generally priced to the roof. Like when we were launching this and selling for $75, $80, people were aghast at the fact that it was that expensive. But with rye whiskey especially now, you just can't find that anymore because people foresaw the bourbon boom a bit. You can predict the Japanese whiskey boom also kind of took people aback. The Scotch boom was pretty easy to predict. I discussed the Irish whiskey boom at length, and it's shot through the roof. Like, look at Bushmills 2 years ago was $99 a bottle. Look back 6 months now, it's $250. And Bushmills 21 is one of my favorites. Same with the 16-year. It was, $70. Now you're looking upwards of $170.
Sure.
And so for the rye category, anytime someone's like, well, that's very expensive for a rye, I'm like, when's the last time you saw a 10-year rye for under $150?
Honestly.
Like, you don't see it happen anymore.
No. I mean, ours is 4-year, and it's above 50, Our bourbon's above 50, our whiskey's above 60, $70, and that's a 4-year, so.
But for
there's
this,
no way.
for me, is very accessible, again, with the Alberta rye, it's much sweeter, and it has a really long, delicious finish. Actually, let's have a little fun. Let's take a little sip. I want to see if you guys can figure out the note at the end of the finish. It's very distinct, and when I tell you what it is, you're probably going to be like, what the hell?
At the end of the finish?
The finish in itself. It's got this very distinct note that's very hard to pinpoint. After years of tasting, thousands of whiskeys, for me, it's pretty easy to place. Also, you're probably going to judge me when I tell you what it tastes like. So you do get a lot of the baking spice, some of those nice menthol, cherry notes. But what I like to say is a lot of people use the term earthy. I use the term sweet dirt.
Sweet dirt.
I did eat a lot of dirt as a child. There are pictures of me eating literally fistfuls of dirt as a baby. And for me, this has this and it's
Instagram where it didn't happen.
Right?
I mean, my mother has all those pictures, so there they are available if she'll dig them out somewhere. But it has a very earthy finish, and that's what I really like about it is, especially as someone that's obviously obsessed with hiking and the woods and nature. Like for me, it kind of brings back almost that taste of where you pull out a fresh plucked vegetable, and then you just get that really earthy taste. Like even if you rinse it off, I just love it.
I think it's kind of mushroomy.
Yeah, see, exactly. So you get that earthiness to it.
I think it is very specifically like a mushroom right out of the ground. I totally get the soil or dirt or whatever flavor that you're picking up, but there is something kind of, and it sounds weird, but a mushroom can be juicy.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a little bit. It's got a little bit of almost that viscosity to it,
Yeah,
it in a
totally
taste.
does.
Yeah.
This is one of the more, I would say, unique ryes in the field right now. It's so good though, man.
Well,
I think from top to bottom, it's exceptionally good.
I mean, when it comes to Alberta rye too, you don't see a lot of that. Everyone, hopped on the MGP train, but when Whistle Pig was founded, we sourced a lot and made contracts with ADL up in Canada, and the reason you don't see a lot of Alberta rye is we own the vast majority of it. Yeah. So I'm going to pour you guys something next and ruin your lives for a little while.
Oh, Lord.
Here we go.
Lives ruined.
Don't worry, it's not Malort. We're fine.
Oh, boy. Had enough of that in my life.
I don't want to have any part of that.
Yeah, I'm good without
at
that.
this point. I want to say too, it is really hard. Oh my gosh!
Golly.
Did you see that?
So
I thought that I was about to have pancakes based on the way that you were pouring this.
Thick with 2 C's.
I think that it is impossible for us to talk about Whistle Pig without talking about Dave Pickerel. And that
this isn't whiskey, by the way.
I kind of think. Oh, it's maple syrup.
It is syrup. Oh.
Okay.
So we'll go. Well, okay.
Are we shooting syrup?
Well, now that we have, we are. No, literally.
Syrup shots.
So before the fly set in, we'll take a sip of this and we'll talk. Obviously about Dave. So this is our maple syrup that we tap all of the trees on the distillery on a ridgeline, and as that syrup is still hot and reduced, we dump it into barrels that previously held whiskey, our 10-year whiskey. Most people that taste this say it's the best maple syrup they've ever had. Reason being, any other barrel-aged maple syrup you get, they usually order the whiskey from someone else that produces it. And, it's not literally, like, we literally bring it into the sugar shack, reduce it, and dump it into barrels while it's still hot.
Right then.
And it's ridiculously good. This is what I'm making the old fashions with tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
But I warn people
Okay.
before they drink it. I say, hey, you can't buy this anywhere, so this will ruin you.
That's so rude. Why
I'm
would you
really,
do that
really
to
mad
us?
about this now.
It's ridiculously good.
I feel like Buddy the Elf. It's great.
I don't like sweet, but I will literally take shots of this.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
phenomenal.
definitely could.
I did.
We just did.
yeah, literally.
We just shot
Yeah.
maple syrup. And
But-
if you want to have a little fun, just grab the bottle of 10-year and just pour a little in there. And anyway, so what questions did you have about Dave?
It's less questions, more just kind of talking about the impact that he had on Whistle Pig in general, because this was kind of his baby,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this was what he wanted to build as a distiller, not even as a master distiller, just as a distiller
Yeah.
and a founder and everything. I think that Whistle Pig is such an interesting conversation point in the world of whiskey where we are right now. And how has Whistle Pig worked their brand post Dave Pickrell's death?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a heavy topic to be talking about.
No, I wouldn't say it's. I mean, it's heavy in the sense that we lost an absolute icon. I mean, the man's impact on not only obviously Whistle Pig itself, but the craft whiskey industry in general. I mean, I was saying before to someone that stopped by my booth how almost every single craft distillery that you see here right now was touched in some way by
Absolutely.
Dave. And the majority of the work he did when it came to helping them with anything from mash bill to yeast strain to aging technique, a lot of it he did for free, which is not something that not a lot of people know. Is he really helped out everyone in this industry, and a lot of time it was just done, completely off the record with no ask of any monetary compensation. Which to me is not only inspiring, but also something that when it comes to something when whiskey is a very business driven thing, but I think there's a lot of give back that you can do, not only just as brands, but as someone like myself as a consultant as well on the side. And it's something that I try to emulate. Dave was a mentor and hero to me well before I even worked for the brand, and he's missed very dearly. I miss his hugs most of all. That man would bear hug the shit out of you.
So precious.
And the impact he made on the industry is never going to fail. Never going to fade. Like I said, almost every craft industry brand, whiskey, and even gin or vodka, like he's worked in some capacity for. I think he did he help with Wilderness Trail? I think he helped with something, right?
I think there was a lot of. He was very much integral in kind of the business side of things for us. As far as kind of the science goes and stuff like that, that was kind of covered.
Yeah.
But as far as kind of the business side of it, and actually like the distillery, running a distillery and doing those things, that would be much more.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing now, is that Dave was a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
He knew
I
everything.
mean, he absolutely knew 100% of how to create a successful brand from the bottom up.
No, he was from grains to the straight up marketing. I mean, he knew how to push a brand. And obviously the loss for us over at Whistle Pig is deep, and it was a rough day. But the great thing about Dave is his legacy is very much intact in the sense that a lot of the projects that we are releasing and will release were still very much his ideas.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's not like when he died, his ideas and his thought process and even the finishing casks used were suddenly gone. He left before us a legacy that could last years and years. So it's something that we're absolutely going to push through. The team is actually coalesced even better now.
That's great.
obviously support each other. We're still an extremely small company, even with our bottling lines and everything. I think we're still sub 100 people. I mean, we're a tiny brand, and we're going to be by the end of the year in every single state in the United States, and we're pushing overseas now too.
I mean, to put that into perspective, Wilderness Trail for now is a craft distillery. But, I mean, you guys employ how many on the bottling line? How many in the barreling
Oh, boy.
aspect of it?
3 on the bottling line.
I have a feeling this is going to be not the best comparison, but when you think about a nationwide and now international brand, it's a small company.
It's still very small, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you know, it's insane to think about how much, you know, I mean, we're not huge by any means, but we're a production at 230 barrels a day. I mean, I would say I was employee number, I think 9,
Oh, wow.
you know, in the system. But you know, but it puts it into perspective. You know, you're talking about a nationwide, almost now soon to be international brand at sub 100 people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, you know, companies much larger than that put out the same capacity of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
No, but to go back to the question, of course, Dave's death impacted us, but you know, had this happened, say 5 or 6 years prior, I think it could have been extremely detrimental. But he was such a force to be reckoned with and impacted so many different lives that I really don't believe that it's going to have an effect where it would sink the brand. And
Sure.
that's 100% due to him and the quality that he strived for and instilled in all of us and made
Yeah.
sure that the company was kept up to. The man, it's, you know, I know he worked with many brands. Whistle Pig was his baby. It's his legacy.
Yeah.
And it's something that the brand is never going to lose sight of and always honor him. And the whiskey industry will always honor. He is one of the most influential people in the whiskey industry of all time. And that's not even speaking from a Whistle Pig standpoint, but as a whiskey enthusiast and someone who is in love with everything that has to do with whiskey. He's one of the most influential people and always will be.
I don't know a bourbon lover who didn't mourn at least a little. You know.
Oh, no,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
No
like
one ever
he was-
asked who's Dave Pickerel.
Yeah, yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
No
No.
one.
It was felt 100% of the way through.
Oh, the support and outreach was amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't even say that I was like, you know, even amongst his closest friends or like not even close to his closest friends. Like a lot of the people that I work with nowadays knew him for years closely.
Yeah.
But the amount of people in the community that reached out to me personally, not just to me personally, but everyone that works for the brand, but
Yeah.
that were, you know, really stricken and heartfelt condolences and you know, I as a person appreciated, like Dave and I were good friends, but we weren't near as close as a lot of people. But even the outreach
Sure.
from the community was really staggering and amazing to
Yeah.
see how many lives he'd impacted and how many people, when I do tastings nowadays or dinners nowadays, that said, oh, I met Dave, he signed my bottle. And he was the nicest guy in the world. Like that guy, I did staff trainings with him, and he kind of had his spiel, which every brand ambassador
Yeah.
does.
Sure.
And you kind of say the same things.
We know how it
'cause I
goes.
do it,
Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
do it too. I'm sure you do it too.
I have my jokes.
Yeah.
They work sometimes.
But I've worked with brand ambassadors over the past 6-7 years where I can predict exactly their hand movements. Like it's
Sure.
that to the letter.
Absolutely.
Dave could tell a joke or tell a story, and it would feel like the first time you've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And his inflection and tone, he was so excited to share. He was so excited to educate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a beautiful thing to behold, where even though I knew what he was going to say, it felt fresh, and he would tell a joke, and even though I was like, I've already laughed at it like a dozen times, it got a chuckle out of me.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant like that. And it's something that is severely lacking nowadays. Actually, I think it's doing better nowadays than it was before. I think people are a lot more genuine, especially when it comes to craft. But he's someone that everyone that ever gets in the industry, even myself as a young 23-year-old when I got into it 7 years ago, he's someone to look up to and really try to emulate his hugs, his laughter, and his way of being so passionate about something that he never looked like he was working, even though he was working 24/7,
Oh, yeah.
365.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that man worked, but he loved it. And it was a beautiful thing to behold. And I'm honored that I was even able to catch a glimpse of that.
So I don't feel like this particular conversation is over just yet. But we do have to move on.
I think we're getting kicked out.
Somebody else.
Are we surrounded by empty tables?
Basically, we're like the last people here. It's
Park
fine.
closes at dark. I still see light.
It's fine.
No. End of day one, I think that day two, we should definitely pick this back up because we have talked bare minimum about Wilderness Trail.
I'm so
And-
sorry. I didn't mean to take over.
Over here, just
No, we're going to talk
hogging
more
the
about
seat.
Wilderness
I'm
Trail,
kidding.
and we'll bring Nate back on to
Yeah.
do that as well. So, wrap up day one. Thank you all so much for sitting down with us. More tomorrow, though. I know Swan's not really a cigar guy, but
No, I'll interview you guys if you want. We can do that.
We'll do this. What is?
let's talk about cigars.
Welcome to my
Yeah.
bourbon podcast. What have you been smoking recently?
So we've got Tom from bourbonblog.com.
Yes, great to be here with you
Tom,
guys.
so
What a
happy to
pleasure.
have you on, man.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. What are we smoking on here?
Well, I brought several things by you Great Space, and so cool that you're supporting Bourbon on the Banks. We brought by some Toscano cigars, which are they're fire cured. They
Yeah.
have tobacco from Tennessee, Kentucky, and Italy. They're made in Italy. And I also brought you some Pappy Van Winkle cigars. You can find them exclusively on the Pappy & Co. And we're trying some great whiskey, too.
Tom, you spoil me.
Hey, it's the end of the night. We want to do this right, don't we?
Yeah, man. End of night one, I think this is a perfect way
Yes,
to
it is.
kind of finish out
Yeah.
the night. But, so how long have you been doing bourbonblog.com?
Well, amazingly, it's been a while. We started this about 15 years ago. I did a documentary on bourbon. I had been working for the actress who played Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells, and also the comedian Steve Martin, who's doing a lot more music now than anything.
Who's Steve Martin?
And if you've ever seen Lethal Weapon, Danny Glover, those three started a film festival in Idaho. It was a family film festival, and I knew I needed to do a documentary on something. So being close to Kentucky, I picked bourbon, and then I started a blog, and the rest is history. I mean, back then, really not everybody knew what bourbon even was or how exciting it was.
What's so cool about this is it sounds like you were one of the very first bourbon bloggers. Not
It's-
just in Kentucky, but in the daggum world. I mean,
It's possible I might have been. and since then it's just been fun, to see great folks like you, pop up doing podcasts. I mean, the more it can be supported, all the better. We love the whole movement, and for a while we thought, has it hit its max? But it continues to grow. That's the amazing. It just doesn't stop.
I think that we have at least a good 20 years in the industry before it totally burns out. But it is so much fun. It really is fun.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, it's so
I
much
mean,
fun.
to be a part of this industry
Yeah.
without having to produce a product.
Right. No, it's absolutely. We're sitting here on the river. Look at this. I mean, we're on the river. We're looking at Frankfurt. You're from Frankfurt. Had you ever think this would?
I'm
you're
not.
from Lexington.
Swan is from
Swan's
Frankfurt.
from Frankfurt.
Yeah, I'm from
Did you
Frankfurt.
ever think this would become a festival right here on this little area?
Oh, absolutely not. I walk down here like all the time, and then all of a sudden they just got bourbon booths up every 20 feet. I mean, it's fantastic.
What's
This
it
is great.
like to see something that you never realize will be transformed? What's it like to see this transformed into a festival?
Oh, this is wild. It makes me want to walk a lot more often because if they're going to offer bourbon every other booth, that'd be phenomenal. But kind of counterintuitive at that point, but it's fantastic. I mean, it's nuts because I've lived here for 24 years now, and this is the first time that they've held this event, and it's just amazing the support. I mean, this is night one. This is kind of the soft opening of Bourbon on the Banks, and the support already has been phenomenal. Just the people that have turned out, the vendors they've chosen to have here, it's amazing.
Everything from we just tried some cachaça that's it's made in Brazil, but it's aged in Kentucky bourbon barrels, also balsamo wood. The guys are from Danville. They own the brand. We tried a gin from Louisville that has chai spices.
That's fantastic.
So we've had so many different things that have been aged in different places. Now, what do you think of the cigar?
I think it's delicious, which is a weird way to talk about a smoke, but it is. Look, you gave me half of it.
Right. We cut it in half. You can do these with a Toscano. They're long, they're thin. They don't look like every other cigar, and they
Really don't. I was kind of worried when you brought it to
they're
the table.
hand rolled, and they only have women roll these in Italy because they think the women have the best skill at them, and I'm sure they do. My wife's here tonight. I mean, so there's definitely things she can do better than I can do. That's for sure. And
Amen to that.
And rolling these cigars is I mean, they really do an amazing job. We met one of the ladies that came up. We went to a cigar conference called IPCPR in Vegas, and she rolled us some of these, and they're just really nice with whiskeys. You don't have to humidify them. You can put them in your glove box. If you're in traffic, you can light them up in your car. They're just really good, and they don't linger like some cigars do, too.
All right, Tom.
You sold me.
I think I am. I think I'm a convert now.
You're a convert.
This is
well. Next up, we have Pappy Van Winkle cigars. These are pretty nice too.
Geez.
They've been fermented in Pappy barrels.
Oh boy! All right. Well, we'll see about that. It is only night one. Night two, I think, is going to...
What do you guys have planned for tomorrow?
For tomorrow, more of this, man. It's fantastic. People came to us today. It was great.
That was wild. That was one of the coolest
You've had
things.
all kinds of stuff tonight. What have you had?
I have had Jep the Creed. I've had Bluegrass Distillers. We have had...
Whistle Pig from Whiskey with a View.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Nate's Whistle Pig was so good.
Wilderness Trail. We had some syrup from Whistle Pig that was insane.
Oh, man.
That maple syrup was wild.
Don't you want that every morning? Just like...
Oh, yeah.
It is the perfect...
Maybe
like,
nighttime, too.
You know, you're feeling a little bit bad after a night out, and you're like, you know what sounds really good? Some pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
And I have some pancakes, and I put a little bit of the syrup on top of it. And it sets you in the right direction, I think is what's important there. But
well, you guys, I mean, it's exciting what you guys are doing. You've been doing this for almost 2 years now? A little over 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years in October.
When you see your fans, I mean, your listeners, you know, coming over to Bourbon, exploring Bourbon, what's the thing that excites you the most about what's happening in the business? I mean, what do you guys really get excited about?
I like this got turned on us.
I didn't mean to,
I like
but I'm
this.
just
No.
curious.
You wanna go
Honestly,
first?
my favorite thing is watching people come up to me that said, you know what, I used to drink Maker's Mark, and now my wife is going to kill me because I've bought half the liquor store. Like they come up to me and legitimately say that we've kind of opened up their horizon a little bit on as far as like what they want to try, because if we talked about something that's maybe a craft distiller from Kentucky and they've ordered it online, it showed up at their house and now they can't stop drinking it. I mean, I just, not to call out anybody, but Clifton, one of our listeners, he just got some new riff the other day, which now is pretty Kentucky, you know, Tennessee, Indiana exclusive, and he got it all the way in California. And he's drinking that stuff, and he's like, this is phenomenal. And I mean, just hearing the amount of people that are, you know, picking up on stuff that we talk about and then ordering it and getting it where they're at and trying it and saying it's phenomenal. It's great. I love hearing that stuff. It's just expanding your current library of whiskey you're willing to try. And I mean, even Perry here, I mean, I just listened to some of our fans expanding on his cigar collection.
Sure.
I mean, it's been crazy. He's gone from, you know, I'll just pick up, you know, this is always at the store, and I'll pick this up, and now he's got a hand-rolled cigar from Italy blended with Kentucky tobacco, and what else is in there? I mean, it's
Tennessee tobacco
Yeah.
and just a whole lot of love. I mean, so when you talk about whiskeys you're converting from, are there whiskeys that you guys have, I mean, because it could be dangerous to even say this, because the last time it happened, whiskeys can sell out, but are there whiskeys that you think are the best, some of the best values, some of the best whiskeys you've had that have been like...
best value in whiskey that I've seen disappear, Henry McKenna 10-year.
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
That's one of them, yeah. Right now I'm on a huge Knob Creek kick. I mean, if you can get a good Knob Creek
for
pick,
sure.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like Knob Creek single barrels, I think, are probably the unsung hero right now of bourbon. And you know, we're seeing, and it's kind of dying out a little bit, but seeing 14, 15-year-old picks for $45 to $50.
Yeah.
I mean, where else can you get that? There
It's
is
tough to
nowhere
find.
else in bourbon that you are able to purchase a product like that. And if you can, you're running like $120, $150.
Right.
But Jim Beam has done this really cool thing where you go in, you pick whatever you think is the best. If it's 9 years, great. If it's 15 years, great as well.
Right.
And they're going to sell at the same price. So, and it's not to discount, you know, the 9-year-old single barrels that are coming out, because those are still really, really good. But I think that the 15-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever it is those are the barrels that are kind of slept on right now.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
no. And when they get them, too, because I've seen multiple people do this, they'll get one pick, they'll say, this is so good, I need another bottle. And then they'll go back and they're like, oh, I don't know if you know what a barrel pick is, but this is it. This is all the cases we have of this. After this is gone, I'll watch people pick up 4 and 5 cases of that stuff. It's nuts. I mean, they'll get at least of 2 or 3 bottles to take home with them, and it's just because they know that it's not going to be there again. And to have that pick that's so specific and special to them, that's phenomenal. And Knob Creek's offering that right now, and Russell's is doing the same thing. They're doing some definite picks with some age that are really specific out of specific warehouses, and people just go nuts for them. And I can't complain at one bit about it.
Sometimes with bourbon, it feels like it'll go on forever. Like there's a certain infinity to it, and then sometimes it feels limited. I mean, that's the world we live in. You know, I mean, it feels like there's a lot of it because it's been aging for a while, but it also feels like, oh, this same thing is not around. You know,
Well, sure. I mean, you look at the demand for Buffalo Trace products, going all the way from Ancient Age, all the way up to Pappy Van Winkle. That demand has been huge over the past few years. And what is really cool to me, also, not sure where this turned from interviewee to interviewer, but
I didn't mean to do this. It's just great to chat.
No,
with these
I think it's kind of cool. But I think that is the prime example of the supply and demand of bourbon right now. Is Buffalo Trace products are lauded and sought after and everything by the community. Not even just the community, but people who are like, if I have a bottle of Pappy 12 or Pappy 23, rather, that is a status symbol.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, and there's so many people I know that they're like, I need a Buffalo Trace collection. I'm like, well, do you open any of them? They're like, well, when I get a second bottle, I'm like, open them, enjoy them. It's crazy. Why would you not do that? I mean, I got a bottle of Rock Hill Hall Farms that's about to go away, and I don't have a backup, and that's perfectly fine.
See, that is my thing with bourbon, is that it was supposed to be enjoyed. It's meant to be enjoyed. Yeah. So if you get a bottle of the antique collection, you crack that sucker and you share it with friends.
Right.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be about. And you know what though? If you are buying it to make a profit, fine. That is your decision. That is your choice. But at the core of it, it is supposed to be enjoyed by your friends, by you, whomever, because you bought it. And like that is why I had this conversation with Dixon Dedman recently. I was talking about Kentucky Owl.
Great. Oh, we love the Kentucky Owl.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Talking about how excited I get over limited bottles like that. If I have the opportunity to buy it, I don't hoard it. I don't keep it for myself. My inclination is I'm going to open it and I'm going to share it with people.
Right.
Because they might not have that opportunity to try it, right? So that's why, and this is kind of getting back to your original question about, how we've grown as a show. It's all about the community for me. Right. It's all about the people that we meet and, the fact that we can share in something that a lot of people really do consider to be arbitrary. But in this case, for us, it's something really, really special.
Yeah.
Also, I just saw the security pass by, so we might have to.
We're shutting the house down.
We might have to wrap up.
We are, yeah.
We might have to wrap up night one.
What a night! What a nice way to end the night with you guys. It's
Tom, I apologize that we have to cut it short.
No, it's great to be with you guys. It's so nice to be with you. More fun times to be had this weekend at Bourbon on the Banks.
Absolutely.
Sure. This is going to become something that's going to be very special for
totally agree.
all of Kentucky, for the bourbon world, for spirits world, and I hope everybody can come out and see this.
I do too. Night one is over.
Yeah.
Night two is coming at you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, Swan.
Yes, Perry.
Swan.
Perry.
Day one of Bourbon on the Banks. That was wild.
Yeah, it was great, man. I'll be honest. Like, it was kind of a VIP event. There wasn't a ton of people, and it was nice to come in and really get to know some of the vendors. And then we also got to try some of the stuff that everyone's having today. And then today, they just added music and probably at least 10 times the amount of people.
Oh, we kind of came into last night not really knowing what to expect, simply just because this is a totally new festival.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, everything about it was perfect. It was fantastic.
It was great.
Could not have asked for a better event. And, I mean, that was night one. That was just the soft launch of Bourbon on the Banks. Here we are on night 2 with all these people. This is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this is one of the coolest things that's happening in Central Kentucky right now for Bourbon. And shoot, man, I couldn't be happier about it.
No, I honestly, this is a great opportunity for me, too, because I'm not a huge cocktail person. And I've talked about this, and even Steven's tried to help me with it. I just had some of the best summer cocktails I've ever had.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it was fantastic. It was just ale 8, and then just a good mixture of like a blueberry, or what was it? No, it was a blackberry.
Blackberry smash.
Blackberry smash.
So good.
Yellowstone killed it. Knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. More on that later and all of the awesome things that are happening here at Bourbon on the Banks. That is going to be actually next week's episode. So what you kind of got was the preview to what was going on for everything. And we're going to get into the meat of it next week.
Absolutely.
So thank you all so much for listening to this. We really do appreciate it. Swan, is there anywhere on social media that people can find you if they would like to do that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at @MyBourbonFinder.
There you go. If you want to follow me personally, I am at PRitter1492 on all social media platforms. If you'd like to follow the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. If you would like, it really does help us out. Finding new listeners, finding new people to become engaged with the show. It is something that gets kind of lost in what I would call the algorithm of iTunes. But it is important. So please, please go and do that. If you are not yet a part of our Facebook group, you can head to facebook.com and search for This Is My Bourbon Group. And it is all just listeners of the show. We have a really great time in there, hanging out with each other and getting to talk about all of the cool things that are going on in bourbon right now and with the podcast. So again, This Is My Bourbon Group. You can find that on Facebook. If you have questions or comments, you can send them to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. It really would be fun, I think, to read out some questions on air and answer them from some of our listeners. And then last but not least, if you would like to become a patron of the show, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a supporter of the show. And at certain tiers, you get really cool things like bonus episodes and live chats where we hang out with our patrons. And yeah, it's a really good time. I really enjoy it. Swan's part of that community as well. And I think that does it for week 1 of Bourbon on the Banks. Swan, thanks for hanging out with me, buddy.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it's been awesome.
And thanks for everybody who came and sat down with us and chatted about everything going on in bourbon. It's been so much fun, and we're not even done yet.
No, we're just getting started, man.
Let's see where night 2 takes us. But until then, I'm Perry.
And I'm Swan.
And this is My Bourbon Podcast.